That's all from us here on E-Ink. Bye for now.
Hello and welcome to this special two-part series called LiVSafe. Over the course of these two episodes, we'll talk about how to ensure safety on the road and at home. On today's episode, we'll focus on what you need to do to ensure safety on the road, whether you're driving a car or riding a bike. Joining me in the studio is Roopam Asthana, MD and CEO of Videocon General Insurance, and auto expert Tutu Dhawan, who joins us from Delhi. Thank you both very much for joining me on the show. Roopam, let me come to you. Take us through the concept of LiVSafe and how you really went about this study.
First of all, Avni, let me thank you for getting me on the road with Bloomberg and yourself. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you and Mr. Dhawan. Let me quickly tell you about LiVSafe. Our belief has always been, when we started off this company a few years ago, that not only should we actually provide insurance, but we should also add value to our consumers in making their lives safer and more secure.
Right.
And in that endeavor, we launched this initiative called LiVSafe, which looks at various risks which people like you and me or large corporates or shopkeepers and other small traders actually face in their day-to-day life. How can those be mitigated by ways and means other than just insurance? And that is what all LiVSafe is all about.
Right. Mr. Dhawan, I'm going to come to you now, because when we talk about car safety, really, especially we talk about during the monsoons or in floods, if that happens, there are certain technical terms such as hydrostatic lock and engine seizure. Can you tell us what these terms really mean?
Well, hydrostatic lock is basically the engine which sucks in water, and since a diesel engine has got a very high compression ratio, it has hardly any tolerance of anything coming in between the combustion chamber, that means the head and the piston. With the result, any water that goes into it, it acts like a wall, and finally, with momentum, what happens is the piston tries to push the water up, and in the bargain, the connecting rod gets bent, and sometimes even bigger damages happen, including camshaft breaking and valves bending and so on and so forth. So this is mainly in diesel vehicles, which is very common these days, and because of their suction intake, which has become almost watertight, sometimes when you are either going through water at a higher speed, or maybe a truck or a bus or a bigger vehicle tries to overtake you while you are wading through water, that water gets onto your bonnet and finally gets sucked in through the air cleaner.
Right. So, Mr. Dhawan, we've seen a lot of, there were examples of the Mumbai floods a few years ago, and, that hasn't been the only incident. There are several such instances. What really, in terms of safety features, should a car ideally have that one should look out for while purchasing a car?
Well, normally, all these cars are equipped to handle water up to about 2 to 3 feet. But there is a very big but in it, that you cannot go speeding through. You have to just about crawl through without accelerating the car very hard, so that you really don't disturb the balance of the water and the waves which might get sucked in through the air cleaner. However, it is always advisable that either you get pushed out of that water or switch off the engine and get towed out. So something like that could probably save a hydrostatic lock. And of course, bigger vehicles, SUVs and all, they are in any case are higher from the ground level, is almost 200 mm the clearance in the undercarriage. So there the levels go up. So you can wade through water, but again, as I said, not at a higher speed, but at a moderate speed.
Right. Roopam, from an insurer's perspective, are there any additional features that you would ideally like to see? Because I'm sure, car insurance, motor insurance, one of the claims which are the highest number for general insurance companies.
No, absolutely, Avni. We would love to have cars which are more safer, and they're safer not just for the vehicle, but also for the people who drive it and people who ride in those cars. Besides that, we would also like cars to be safer for people who are on the road who may get hit by those cars.
Right.
So these are some of the factors that need to be kept in mind while you're looking at safety features in cars. So all the standard safety features that come in cars, like the ABS, the very basic seat belts, the braking assistance systems, all of them are absolutely essential safety features. But in my opinion, there is one safety feature which actually does not involve technology.
Okay.
And that is something which we call common sense. And I think that is a safety feature which in our belief is the one which can actually save a lot more lives and actually can save a lot more vehicles from getting crashed.
Right.
Simple things, don't drink and drive, don't talk on the phone while you're driving, don't drive when you're feeling sleepy. These are all very simple, commonsensical things. So technology can only take you this far. But beyond that, there is this factor of common sense that has to be brought in. And I think a combination of this is what we as insurers believe can actually make roads safer for everybody.
Right. So aside from the common sense aspect, which everyone should be aware about, is there anything else more on a more technical basis, which people may not be aware about, of do's and don'ts, for example, while driving in floods or in waterlogged areas?
So I think a couple of things are very, very important. As the monsoons approach, I think the first thing that car owners or vehicle owners should do is actually get into the pre-monsoon checkups.
Right.
What we find is that a number of auto dealers and number of garages actually offer that as complimentary service to their own customers. So what do things to check in that? Check your braking system, check if your windshield wipers are working properly, and the fluid which is available, which is a mix of soap and water, is working properly. Check if you have got a small hammer in your glove box. Check if you've got a flashlight with full batteries in your glove box. Besides that, I think one more thing which people need to do as a part of their check is something which Mr. Dhawan talked about in terms of hydrostatic locking, is actually understand the level of the air intake, which is usually closer to the radiator, how high or low it is in their vehicle. Simple knowledge of that fact can also help them when they do see levels of water and drive through levels of water. But again, in terms of safety checks, these are some of the basic safety checks that people need to do as monsoons approach and as you see rain's intensity increasing.
Right. Mr. Dhawan, anything to add to that really? I mean, anything that you've seen which people are unaware about or tend to overlook quite easily?
No, I think he's almost covered everything, except that yes, the windscreen wash is a very important thing, and normally in a car which is 2-3 years old, because of sediments, the wind wash part normally doesn't work. So that my experience is that should also be checked, and maybe if required, the wiper blades should be replaced to have a little more clarity, when you're driving and then under raining conditions.
All right, gentlemen, time for a short break. We'll come back and continue this discussion and shift focus to ensuring safety while driving in the fog. Stay tuned.
We get your holistic view of the day's trading
The highs and the lows.
and the day's most significant stories.
We are seeing that subdued reaction in stocks.
Keeping an eye on every aspect that drives markets
Get all that you need to know.
as the trading day comes to a close.
You have admired their posters. You have watched them on the streets. You have dreamt about them since you were a child. They have captivated your imagination. We bring you live on-the-ground coverage from where the action is. Auto Expo 2016 on Bloomberg TV India.
Stocks that have really fallen.
RBI has had a losing
Lots of
sign.
markets are looking good.
Inflation is the most crucial
Reality and expectation. Stories making headlines, moving markets. Catch the midday wrap of all the things that you need to know. sense of things to come with newsmakers and experts, analysis and insights. Stay ahead with me, Minnie Mellon, for a holistic take on all that matters.
In the ever-changing world of business,
Keeping up with every move, every update is essential.
with stories that shape our economic backdrop,
A deep understanding of market activity.
and expert views that help you gauge the story better.
Get the most vital information.
From the business world and beyond.
Powered by BSC, Investors Protection Fund.
With the kind of following you have, that's a lot of numbers we're looking at. So you must be now getting quite a lot of interesting propositions that come your way. And I'm sure those are diversifying.
To help you understand where I come from, I came from an industry where none of this was even possible. Did I think I would be sitting on your channel? Never in a million years would I have thought that. So a lot of the things that we think of, it's all the things that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to make movies. I've always wanted to be a part of MTV because I was a product of MTV. I grew up watching it. So the perfume is something that I've always wanted to do. I launched a Teen Pati game for Google, and I've been a gamer since I was a little kid.
Welcome back. You're watching LiVSafe and I'm in conversation with Roopam Asthana and Tutu Dhawan. Let's now shift gears and talk about safety measures while driving in the fog. Roopam, coming to you, can you cite some examples for us of major disasters that have happened as a result of fog?
Avni, I think fog is just as dangerous as the flooding and monsoon we talked about earlier, because it does a very basic thing. What it does is it reduces visibility, and today when people are driving on highways at fairly high speeds in these modern cars, lack of visibility or reduction of visibility is a major cause of accidents. So we've heard of number of examples of major pile-ups on highway where 20 or 30 cars have actually gone into each other simply because of lack of visibility or poor visibility resulting from fog. So fog is actually a very, very dangerous situation for drivers on the road. A number of times, I'm sure, I have driven in the north in India when the fog is at its peak, and it's virtually impossible. Your visibility is so restricted, it's virtually impossible to drive. So fog is a very dangerous situation to drive.
Right. Mr. Dhawan, not all cars really come with pre-installed fog lamps. How important is it to have fog lamps on your car? Should it just be on the basis of whether you're living in Mumbai versus Delhi?
Well, mostly all these new cars, depending on these specs that you are buying, there are 2-3 types of cars that you buy, and most of them have fog lamps incorporated in the bumpers at least. But the only problem is that these lamps are not actually fog lamps, they are actually driving lamps, city driving lamps, while you don't need to put on your headlamps. But the same lamp can be converted into a fog lamp by either putting a yellow bulb in it, or in an emergency situation, even a yellow clear paper, what you get to wrap a sweet box, even that would serve the purpose. But let me tell you one more thing. When you are driving in fog, obviously, you need to first pull your speed down to a very controllable speed whereby you can probably see the road, and use your headlamps in dip and not in high beam, because with fog there is moisture in the air, and the headlights that you put on, they refract and probably you bring your visibility down. Preferably not to use headlamps at all, just use fog lamps with yellow paper, and then try to follow the white marker on the road, and of course bring your speed down to as low as possible.
When you're faced with foggy weather, especially during the day, and if you don't have fog lamps, for example, how much does it help to use your headlights? Does that help at all?
Well, headlights on dip beam but you will only have to crawl. You know, your visibility really becomes very low with white lamps, because white lamps refract a lot of light back into your own eyes. So it becomes rather dangerous, and if it is a very heavy fog, then I would recommend that one should pull off, and not pull off just on the shoulder of the road, because somebody else might come and get into you. There have been instances here on the expressway just recently when there was a pile-up of about 30-40 cars, and out of that 7-8 people died in the bargain. So the fact is that when you are pulling off, you should be way off the road if possible, where you can find safety till fog settles down and you are able to make road again.
Right. Roopam, again, what are some of the do's and don'ts while driving in the fog that drivers should be aware about?
No, I think Mr. Dhawan, has very clearly pointed out a few things which are very important. So first is controlled speed. I think that is very, very important. Basically, what you have to keep in mind is that when you brake, there is a time lag between the time you brake and the car comes to a halt. The faster you are, the longer is the distance the car travels before it comes to a stop. So you have to be aware of the braking speed and how much distance the car usually travels, and take that into account. So that's what a safe driving is all about, is by understanding the circumstances around you. The other thing is using fog lights, because fog lights actually improve visibility in low visibility times, and those low visibility may not only be because of fog, it could be because of rain, it could be because of snow or a sandstorm. So the situation could be different, but I think those fog lights have a utility which goes just beyond fog. Right. The third thing is obviously you need to know your car that much better, in terms of what is the capacity of the car and what is around you. If you are driving on an expressway, cars will come at a high speed, and you need to be aware of that. Whereas if you're driving in the city on the roads, the speeds are going to be lower.
Right.
So awareness is very, very important.
Right. Roopam, the other question that I had, from getting an insurer's perspective, what kind of an increase have you seen in claims? Have you, as a result of negligence of safety rules? Because as I said, motor insurance is one area where insurers see a huge amount of claims. But specifically as a result of neglecting safety rules, what's the kind of increase that you've seen in claims?
Yeah, we've seen a fairly substantial increase in claims because of people not following very basic safety rules. Simple things, overspeeding on Indian roads where you have a lot of jaywalking happening is creating huge amounts of accidents. We are seeing better roads in some of the states, and people believe that they can drive much faster than the speed limits are as prescribed. So that leads to a lot of accidents. Simply not knowing what their car is capable of or not capable of also results in accidents.
Right.
But what I talked about earlier, which is using your phone while you're driving or being distracted while you're driving, is a big cause of accidents and a huge cause of concern for us insurance companies.
All right. On that note, it's time for another quick break. We'll come back and talk about safety features that you should be aware about while riding a two-wheeler. Stay tuned.
Always so much happening around us.
From new policies to scares and scandals.
Whether it's the ruckus in Parliament or the rain gods teasing the economy.
The suspense around interest rates, the excitement of a new launch.
Or what triggers global markets.
You need to make sense of it all to break through the clutter.
You need insight and perspective.
At the end of the day, you need
the final word.
In association with PNB Housing Finance, door to your dream home opens easier with us. In association with Binani Cement, for generations to come.
Catch the early morning buzz as the opening bell rings and trading begins.
We get you news that's moving stocks and the economy.
And we tell you how it impacts your trade and investment.
catch the latest updates and all that you need to know.
To stay ahead in the game. Start early and stay sharp.
Be integrated, wholesome, live by the laws of nature. Let your life be naturalized. Get Mickey Mouse.
You have admired their posters. You have watched them on the streets. You have dreamt about them since you were a child. They have captivated your imagination. We bring you live on-the-ground coverage from where the action is. Auto Expo 2016 on Bloomberg TV India.
They are placing some big bets on India, fueling growth and a new wave of billion-dollar companies. Join me as I catch up with the men and women who are making some of the biggest investments in this country. What's catching their eye and driving the deal? What are they really betting on? And how do they see the India opportunity really play out? Catch the heads of the top venture capital companies and private equity players here in India, only on Deal Street.
Welcome back. You're watching LiVSafe and I'm in conversation with Roopam Asthana and Tutu Dhawan. Let's talk about crucial safety measures while riding a two-wheeler. Roopam, when it comes to two-wheelers, I think the first thing that can't be stressed enough is the importance of wearing a helmet.
No, absolutely right, Avni. I mean, that's one of the very basic safety precautions that can be taken when you ride a two-wheeler. As you know, two-wheelers are unstable in nature, and therefore their tendency to tilt over and fall is much higher than any other form of 3 or 4 wheeled vehicles. And in this situation, wearing a helmet is very, very important. But when you look at a helmet or when you wear a helmet, I think there are a few things one must take care of. And this is something which I note on a day-to-day basis when I look at two-wheeler riders. First thing, strap up your helmet.
Right.
There is no point in wearing a helmet if you don't strap it up, because in the case of a shock or an accident, the helmet will go off and its utility is completely lost.
Right.
The second thing is do look at helmets which have got an ISI mark or any other such warranty or a guarantee in terms of its safety features. It's very important for you to invest a little extra in that helmet because it's your life which is at stake.
Right.
And the third is there are a number of helmets which also come with additional things like, for example, protection for your eyes. And that is another feature that one should probably look at, because while driving, there is a lot of dust and dirt that does go into eyes, and that may also cause accidents. So these are a few things one must take care of when riding a two-wheeler and wearing a helmet.
Right. Mr. Dhawan, when we talk about safety features for bikes, whether it's while riding in the rains or in waterlogged areas, or it's while riding in the fog, is there anything specific that bikers must be aware about and, ensure that is there on the bike?
Well, I would like to add a few things more. One of them is you must be wearing a proper gear. We see normally people are not properly clad when they are riding a bike. At least have a nice thick jeans or a coat or a jacket, made of jeans or maybe leather if possible, nothing like it. That adds to a little more safety while you are riding a bike and in case you go for a toss. And of course, the other important thing is the shoes. Because we have also noticed that a lot of people just ride bikes in chappals, and that becomes a very dangerous thing in case of a crash. You would also notice now with new bikes coming into the market, they have started giving ABS as well. So these sort of things, safety features, must be seen into when you are trying to buy a bike. I would recommend strongly that even if you have to spend 10-20,000 rupees more for additional safety like an ABS, what we call is basically a silent savior. It does a lot of things without making noise, and in fact tries to save a lot of ugly situations without even anybody realizing, and it does its bit. So I would strongly recommend to people who are buying newer bikes that they must try and bring up their budget a little more just for an additional safety and of course for the pillion also. But as far as the pillion is concerned, they should also be as well clad as the rider himself, including an ISI helmet which has been recommended.
Roopam, any tips specifically for children who are traveling either in cars or on bikes?
Children are our prized possessions, and therefore, we need to be very, very careful when we are driving with children. One thing we must keep in mind is the fact that, when you're traveling in a car, usually we see people wear seat belts only when they sit in the front. But you must remember that for the person sitting at the back, the car is moving at the same speed.
Right.
And in case of an accident, that person is also very prone to accident because they get thrown in the front and hit the windscreen. And therefore, it is strongly recommended that for slightly older children, they should wear seat belts. And for very young children, you should have these specially made seat cars. For cars for the seats for children, which are specifically recommended for small children. So that is very important. In two-wheelers, again, you have to be very, very careful with children. Drive slowly, drive defensively, do not take risks, do not take sudden turns and twists. These are very, very simple things that you have to keep in mind when you're traveling with children in your vehicles.
Right. From a claims perspective, when you look at insurance in cars versus bikes, what is the kind of difference that you see in claims?
Well, first, let me just very quickly say that the under-penetration in bikes is huge.
Okay, much more than cars.
Much more than cars. Our estimate is that, after the first year insurance, which usually is given when you take the bike out of the dealership, very large percentage of people, 60 to 70% of the people actually don't renew their insurance for two-wheelers.
Right.
That is extremely dangerous, and we would strongly recommend that you put a marker in your diary, put an alarm clock, so that you know when your insurance is coming due, and go ahead and insure your two-wheeler as well.
Right.
Because you are at risk.
Right. In fact, Roopam, the regulator IRDAI has said that they're looking at making vehicle insurance available through ATMs for easier accessibility.
Yes.
Do you think moves like that will really help the penetration to improve?
Absolutely. I think there are a few things which are really going to make a difference. So first is the multi-year policy. There are a number of companies like Liberty Videocon which are offering multi-year insurance policies for two-wheelers. That is something which will help more people take insurance. Anything which makes it easier for them to take insurance, so be that an ATM or be a simple counter at your petrol pump, I think anything which makes it simpler will increase penetration as far as two-wheelers is concerned.
Right. Mr. Dhawan, any final thoughts on safety features or safety measures that people should take care of? And especially, one aspect we haven't covered really is the speed limit and how important it is to adhere to that.
I would like to add to the safety of children being ridden on a two-wheeler.
Right.
I have also noticed that when the small children, usually are, put on the rear seat and with their arms around the rider, with air going through their hair and, the ride becoming a little longer, we've seen some people, children going to sleep and going into a crash after that. So these sort of measures to keep making sure that the child behind you is not sleepy and is awake and is active. So these things must be looked into very carefully when you're taking children on a two-wheeler.
Mr. Dhawan, sorry, just to interrupt you, children wearing helmets, I mean, that's something that we never see, at least on Indian roads. Is that something that, that can perhaps be a recommendation or something that should be adopted really?
Indeed, why not? The only unfortunate thing is that we don't get small helmets easily, and in any case, whatever you do get, our ISI marked helmets are for normal adults, standard heads. So unfortunately, one has to really go around with a magnifying glass looking for a small helmet for a child. But when it comes to a permanent thing that some child has to travel on a bike to school and back, the parents and the custodians, they must make it sure that the child also wears all sorts of safety gadgets as much as a rider himself.
Right. Roopam, any final thoughts, any final words on road safety?
No, I think, as more and more Indians get mobile, they buy more cars and they buy more two-wheelers. I think it's very important for people to realize that every machine has its own limitations. And at the end of the day, it is people driving those machines and not the machines driving the people. So people need to understand their machines very well.